Equity broke my business and severed one of the best friendships I ever had. It was about 7 years ago. We both owned 50% of the business and ended up in a situation where we both felt like the other person wasn't being fair. And because of our disagreements, we just had no other choice but to shut down the business, kill the brand that we had both worked so hard to create. To this day, I really regret the way things went down, and all of this would have been avoidable if I had just known how to treat equity more fairly. Which is why I created this talk. The only fair way to do startup equity, so other people out there don't run into the same problems. Equity is how much of a company each person involved owns. And I'm a big believer that if you're in a company and you spend more than, say, a year in it, even if you're getting a full salary, you still deserve to own part of it. It just feels right to me. And equity is often used for compensation. Let me walk you through a scenario and show you why this isn't the best scenario. So let's say your market salary is $60,000. I ask you, hey, what's the bare minimum that you need to survive? Because we're a startup, we don't have a lot of cash in the bank. You tell me it's 30. I go, okay, well, I can give you 30, and that other 30, I want to give you an equity. And by giving you this, I'm hoping you'll help me make that equity worth something. So that sometime in the future, when we sell the company or get cashed out, it'll be worth something. It'll be worth maybe double, hopefully at least 60,000, if not more. That's what you get for your risk. Equity, another way to look at it, is rights to future cash. Now, let's say in this scenario, a couple other questions come up. Well, what percentage of the company is that $30,000 worth? You might want to know that. If someone buys a company halfway through for the year for $1 million, what do you get? And what happens if you leave at some point? Do you get to keep anything? And if another team member quits, do they get to keep all their equity? Do they get to walk out the door with it? If you decide halfway through that you need more money to survive off of, maybe you have a child, how do we recalculate things? And, if you give me some business equipment or pre-existing intellectual property, do you get anything for that? Do you get equity? And most importantly, if you work longer hours than someone else, do you get any additional equity for that? These are good questions. And oh hey, pop quiz. When do you think is the best time to answer these questions? Is it when you're about to get investment or when you're about to sell the company? It's kind of a trick question, right? The right answer is neither. All this stuff in a perfect world, you've got figured out from day one. So we need a better way. We need a solution that rewards team members for their hard work. If you work harder, you deserve more of the pie. We need a way to motivate team members to contribute more, and a way that is easy to add or remove team members if they go or if we decide to move the company. And we need all of this, hopefully from day one. Wouldn't that be great? But don't worry, if you're already in it and you want to retrofit a little bit, I'll be showing you some ideas about how to do that later on. All right, so what follows, I have to say, is not legal or financial advice. I'm not an attorney or an accountant, and all opinions expressed are about 95% true. So now that you know that, let's jump in to learning about the dynamic equity split. And this methodology that I'm going to define is mostly from this book, great book, called Slicing the Pie by Mike Moyer. And to be fair, I'm going to be putting in my opinion here and there. But if you want to learn more about this, there's a lot of great details in this book that I'm not going to go into. So what is this? Well, we're going to be talking about the business like it's a pie. Everybody contributes to baking it, and we keep track of who puts what into the pie so that when it's baked, when we get investment or we sell the pie, we can have a fair way to determine how things get sliced up and how much equity each person has. So this is all based around how we calculate your slice as we build the business. How do we figure out your slice? The formula is pretty simple. You have your contribution divided by everyone's contribution equals your percentage or your slice of the pie. Here's a simplified example. So let's say my hourly rate is $50 an hour, and Jan, who joined the company, is $60 an hour. If I work 140 hours, and she works 50 hours, I can multiply that up. 50 times 140 is 7,000, and 60 times 50 is 3,000. Now, based on this, everybody's contribution altogether is 10,000. We can calculate my slice by taking 7,000 divided by 10,000 equals 70%. That's my slice of the pie, or my equity. For Jan's, we can take 3,000 divided by 10,000, and we get 30%, which is Jan's slice of the pie. Let's pause for a moment and take a look back at the way people usually slice pie. And they usually do it before they bake it. So let's say you and I are going into business and we both give ourselves 50%. So there's our pie, we split it down the middle. Now, I decide I get tired with the project and I want to leave about halfway through baking. You got this, you can finish up all on your own. Do I still deserve 50% for doing what amounts to maybe 25% of the work? Probably not. But if I'm not very nice, I may say, hey, we wrote it down on paper and I got 50%. Nothing you can do about it. And of course, things go bad from here. This is, of course, called the static equity split, meaning that it's fixed and it don't work. Obviously, there's a lot more details you need to learn to successfully do the dynamic equity split. And I've created a bunch of free videos into a free video course you can get right now by just dropping me your email. With your permission, I'd like to send you 6 bite-sized daily videos, which will go over determining a fair hourly rate, compensating through cash and pie, how to pay contractors and advisors with pie, and even maybe your rent, how to value cash investments from team members, value supplies and equipment, how to value relationships and commissions, as well as what to do when people leave, which is a really important one. And if you've already divvied up equity in your startup, I'll also talk a little bit about how you can retrofit this sort of system. So you just watched the first video and you can access to the second one just by signing up using the link somewhere around this video. And don't worry, if you're in the middle of trying to figure out equity with your startup and want to watch the entire video right this second, I'll email you a link to do that too. Oh, and at the end of each video, I've attached a few outtakes so you can enjoy watching me screw up. The dynamic equity split. Let's spit. I don't want to spit on it. Don't spit on it. It won't work very well. I'd like to introduce you to the dynamic equity. I'd like to introduce you.